Welcome everyone. Today, you will learn how a trebuchet with just a few shots was able to kill more people than a nuclear bomb. I will also dispel some misconceptions about this fearsome siege machine. It's hard to say when the first fortifications appeared. However, people learned to protect settlements from the hostile world before building full-fledged cities. Walls and ramparts appeared long before the spread of black metallurgy, and over many millennia, they went through their own evolution. For a long time, there were no effective means of fighting fortifications, and they only appeared in the developed Middle Ages. However, in ancient times, a number of quite formidable-looking siege machines of the tension and torsion type appeared. Simply put, the basis of the first ones was a bow, an elastic element. The basis of the second ones was the elasticity of twisted ropes and cables. Despite belonging to siege machines, the main role of these quite complex devices was not the destruction of walls, but the firing of projectiles behind the line of fortifications. In fact, even in the Middle Ages, the tasks of some stone throwers can be reduced to the destruction of some part of the internal fortifications, providing a psychological effect on the enemy. Approximately in the 5th century BC, on the territory of present-day China, they decided to cross the arrow, long pole, and counterweight. The result is a quite interesting machine of the gravitational action type. In essence, it was much simpler and even more primitive than the devices of Greek and Roman masters. However, this primitiveness became more of an advantage. The second advantage was the potential for the development of this technology. After all, the mass of the thrown projectile and the distance depended on the length of the beam lever and the mass of the counterweight. That is, increasing the power of the weapon was not as limited as that which used the elasticity of wooden shoulders or ropes. The nomads probably got this idea from Chinese who brought, or rather assembled, stone-throwing machines collected from improvised means near the walls of Constantinople. This happened in the 5th century. Expectedly, the device was unable to inflict any significant damage on the fortification. However, the Romans appreciated the construction, and after that, it began to spread throughout Europe. According to another version, the machine was invented by the Greeks, independently of the Chinese. What later becomes known as the trebuchet is, at first glance, a very simple construction consisting of a frame on which the axis and lever beam are fixed. The beam is located in proportion to the axis of 1 to 5 or 1 to 6. One end of the beam is attached to the sling, the other to the counterweight. The counterweight is raised to a certain height by hand or with special mechanisms and then released. The energy is transferred to the movement of the beam, which in turn accelerates the sling and ultimately send it flying towards the target. In reality, it's not as simple to see the potential of this construction as it seems. If you spend time and build a trebuchet with a 4-meter beam and a 100-kilogram counterweight, this construction will take up a lot of space on your property. However, when you start testing, it turns out that the maximum that this machine is capable of is throwing a construction brick 100 steps forward. That is, in fact, you will receive a siege machine, which is more likely to destroy the neighbor's fence, and not some kind of fortification. Early trebuchets were mostly used to make life difficult for those under siege, rather than causing significant damage to fortifications. At the same time, it was relatively easy to build one if you knew what you were doing. However, everything changed at the beginning of the classical Middle Ages. At that time, castles and fortresses became incredibly popular, and something had to be done about it. A fortress is a military object, a series of buildings surrounded by a wall. A castle is a relatively small, single building. Roughly speaking, a well-fortified house where a feudal lord lives. Despite the fact that many people think of castles and fortresses as having towering walls, in most cases, these walls were less than 6 meters high. As strange as it may sound, the most majestic castles with high walls were usually built at the end of the Middle Ages, when the role of these fortifications was no longer as significant as before. The trebuchet was a tool capable of destroying these walls, and it was used for this purpose. Some sources say that a knight is a tank or fighter aircraft of the Middle Ages. If we bring similar analogies, then a trebuchet can be compared to an aircraft carrier. Of course, not in terms of application, but in terms of size and cost. For its time, these were incredible machines. The sling was woven from ropes, and the counterweight box, according to saved records, had a volume of about 30 cubic meters and could have a weight of 10 tons or more. At the same time, the total weight of the structure in assembly could reach 20 tons. There is information that the best counterweight was cast from lead. However, as most of the siege machinery was made of wood, and trebuchets were not among the products that were produced in thousands, they can be judged only by the engravings and written sources that have come down to us and individual wheel-preserved examples. It is obvious that there was no talk of creating such trebuchets under the walls of the enemy. Based on modern experiences of building such a large trebuchet, 10 craftsmen would make one such machine for about 30 days. Such machines were stored in a special warehouse and were transported in disassembled form, and it took only 3 days to assemble. The transportation of several such machines was a difficult logistical task. However, such mass was a harsh necessity. Tests in our days have shown that a beam with a counterweight of 8 tons throws a projectile of 100 kilograms at 200 meters. A projectile of 400 kilograms will fly only 20 meters, but a 40 kilogram projectile can fly up to 300 meters. A counterweight of 6 tons is capable of throwing a 100 kilogram projectile about 150 meters. In general, for most large trebuchets, the weight of the projectile that could be launched at a more or less decent distance was from 50 to 200 kilograms. It should be understood that stone is a dense material. 100 kilograms of granite is a cube with sides of only 35 centimeters. In 1 cubic meter of stone, depending on the type of rock, 2 to 3 tons. In other words, the projectiles were quite heavy, but mostly small. Huge flying chunks of rock were more of a fantasy. Also, it should be remembered that the speed of such a projectile was relatively low. There was no talk of piercing a fortress wall with one throw, not even in dreams. It took dozens of hits in one place to create a breach, and for that, the projectiles had to have the same mass and shape. In reality, the era of trebuchets as siege engines was very short. It lasted from the 12th to the end of the 13th century. In the 14th century, more powerful fortifications appeared, against which siege machines became extremely ineffective. Further increasing the dimensions of the trebuchet was not practical, and probably technically impossible, although in the 14th century these machines continued to be used as before, for the destruction of internal structures. Also, with the help of trebuchets, they could send back to the castle a captured scout, or return fragments of defenders. The final cross on the trebuchets was put by guns, a mortar of the 15th century, with a total weight of 1,500 kilograms, which is 10 times less than that of a trebuchet. It could fire a 130 kilogram core at a distance of 200 meters, while the initial speed of the core was higher. And some monstrous specimens could launch cores weighing 500 kilograms at a distance of 500 or 600 meters. However, there was one case that affected the entire history of Europe and led to the catastrophe. In the early 14th century, there was a drought and other natural disasters, as a result of which rodents began to migrate closer to humans. In Asia, the plague broke out. As it turned out, from Asia to the West, not only technologies but also diseases can spread. Incidentally, there is an opinion that nomads, due to constant movement and rare contacts with cities, suffered from diseases less than settled peoples. To this day, records have been preserved that describe the conflict between the Genoese and the Mongols in Crimea. If anyone did not know, the Genoese Republic had a number of possessions on the Crimean Peninsula. In 1346, the siege of the Genoese fortress of Kaffa took place. During the siege, the Mongols used trebuchets to throw parts of people who died from the plague over the wall. The siege did not produce results, and the Khan retreated. The incubation period of the plague is up to 12 days, and rats can also be carriers of the disease. The disease began to spread westward from Crimea. Over the next 7 years, this would lead to the extinction of 30 to 60% of Europe's population. So, just a few shots from a trebuchet led to the destruction of more people than a nuclear bomb could have. The last case of trebuchet usage occurred in 1521. This was in America. At that time, due to the lack of gunpowder, Cortés decided to demonstrate European engineering thought to the Aztecs. His men built a trebuchet using improvised materials, which launched a stone, and then the structure self-destructed. In general, however, most siege machines, despite their fearsome appearance, were not a decisive factor in the capture of relatively fortified fortifications. However, they could disrupt the life of the defenders.